Hi, so today I'm just going to talk a bit about my experience of being a social worker during the pandemic. So it's been a strange time for me. I started off in one team and I've just recently spent the past few weeks in a new team. That in itself has been a strange change because usually when you start a new team you'd get the chance to shadow people through just driving around in people's cars and going on visits and seeing things, and I think that feels very informal and it gives you a chance to really integrate with the team, but I've had to find other ways of doing that, and that's been through talking to people over the phone and chances that you get to do support where you have to do the visits because it's an essential visit and you go in to support someone and you get those chances to meet people. It's a little bit daunting on Zoom big meetings when you don't know everyone as closely as you would if you were used to being in the team, but even so I've been really supported by the team and made welcome. But it's just made me think about what that must be like for newly qualified social workers, because I'm still sort of reliant on a lot of the knowledge that I have is quite transferable, but I just can imagine that it's so difficult and for people that don't have as much practical experience. And I think I'm just grateful as well that I'd built up some networks with people before I moved as well, because I've still had to call upon them as well. I just think during this time it's just made me realise how essential it is that you have the peer support, because there's been days where something's happened and it's just thrown me completely because you can't get in touch with anyone, and every time you ring you get into the main person just answering the phone. You're not getting through to anyone and you need a manager to authorise something and you can't get through, and on those days when you're just dealing with a crisis and you're just waiting, it's those days where you just need to know that you've got someone that you can just talk it through with, even if they can't fix it. It's just someone that's in social work that understands the pressures and that can just talk to you and sometimes just completely make you realise that it's not as bad as it seems. I know that it's not just me in this position, but I feel that I've made some mistakes with paperwork and processes more than I have in the past, and that happened to me more when I was working attached to the hospitals in the health team, because what was happening was a lot of changes were being made to the funding streams and the procedures, and just every day there was something new to remember, and then you had all the additional pressure, but then you had masses and masses of a new sort of guidance that you were expected to read through, whilst also having an increased workload, which was really difficult because you do get to the point where you feel that you can't take on any new information when you're just working flat out. I think it's about having those boundaries and just taking time to chunk out your day differently. So when you are working from home, it's just making sure that you are taking time to get a drink and keeping hydrated and keeping your lunch time and finding time to just have an informal chat with someone, because sometimes it can become very much that you just focused on work. And I think one of the sad things about it is most people come into social work because it's a people facing job, but some of the difficulties have come from social workers genuinely feeling that they can't do the job properly because they're not with people. So I find it so difficult when you're trying to get through to someone but they can't hear you, or they're not understanding what you're saying on the phone, and all you want to do is go round and speak to them in person, but then it might not be necessarily essential. So then it's finding ways around that, whether you can text people and then do it more slowly that way, or sending information via email, or going on video conferencing. And I think there's been some challenges with care homes. Obviously I work in adult services, I should have said that up front, so a lot of situations I've been facing is when you're trying to speak to people in a care home and maybe they don't have the tool set up, so you're trying to use WhatsApp or something else, and very, very difficult. And I think care homes have been hit really hard because services that would usually support them have not been able to do that, or they've withdrawn. and there's stress from everyone, and uncertainty. I think this time has just been so uncertain, and I think there's been times, like as social workers, where you've been told that it's going to be really stressful and to prepare for it, and you're preparing and then it hasn't been, and then sometimes when you start to get comfortable and then it's an influx of work, and then and it's just really, really uncertain. I think it's uncertain for the practitioners, and it's uncertain for the people that we support as well. I think there has been some really positive work going on. The amount of people that have come and supported from charities and initiatives that have got food to people that haven't been able to get out. Something that's just really made me think was the work that was done to support homeless people to get into accommodation really quickly, which showed me that change can happen quick when it's needed and when people recognise that it's a priority. I think that there's been care for people and people thinking more about the simple things in life and thinking about neighbours and things like that has been positive. I think it's forced everyone to slow down a bit. I think some people have found that working from home's worked really well for them to give you more time and maybe fit more things in the evening, like keeping up with an exercise routine, as opposed to just dashing around and the stress of that. But I think overall, I think a lot of people will be happy when it gets back to normal. I think that there's a lot that we can take from it and actually would be more beneficial in the future. I think that some people have found attending certain meetings when you haven't had to go in person has meant that more people will attend them. But I think for the people that we support, it's just, I think everyone just really wants to get back to seeing people in person, and I feel that it's really difficult to have that level of connection when you're not with people. So I think people have found really creative ways of supporting people, and I think people have pulled together as well and been flexible in what they're doing. So there's some of my main reflections. So I hope this is helpful and opens up some discussion around being a social worker during the pandemic. Thank you.